Welcome back to Gil's Arena, presented by Underdog. Whoa, whoa. As always, we got the legend Gilbert Arenas here with us.
How you doing?
And we got a special guest making his first appearance in Gil's Arena. He was a standout hooper at Princeton, Ivy League Player of the Year twice, conference champion 3 times, 3 tournament appearances in his day. Went on to coach at Brown and Oregon State.
Right.
Before front office stints with the Bucks and the Knicks. He's currently the executive director of the National Association of Basketball Coaches. You got a lofty resume here. And you can catch him and his little sister, the former First Lady, on their podcast, IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson. Craig Robinson, welcome to Gil's Arena, presented by Underdog.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me. This is a treat for me.
Well, we appreciate you. We know you watched the show, but we wanted to confirm that you actually watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're making sure.
Absolutely.
We're a little risque.
You are a little risque, so when the kids come in, I put the mute on right quick, because I still got a couple of young ones at home.
Okay. And you got
do the same thing.
So like I mentioned in your intro, launched a podcast with your sister, Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Obviously, IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson.
Right.
So what led to you guys teaming up to start that podcast?
So, we lost our mother just recently, last June, and we realized that we were the oldest 2 left in the family, and that we haven't been spending a lot of time together because she moves around, and when she lived in the White House, I lived in Corvallis, Oregon, and I live in Milwaukee now. She lives in wherever she wants to live now. So we wanted to find a way to get together a little bit more often, and her executive producer on her first podcast, Dan Fearman, said, "You guys should do this together, do a podcast together." And so that was the first time, and I was like, nobody's gonna know who I am. And he said, but your dynamic between you and your sister is great, and you guys can help some folks, but really it's so we can hang out together. Yeah. So it's really nice. I'm really excited about it. And we've done about 20-ish episodes now. I've lost track. And it's been the high, other than hanging out with my family, it's been the highlight, my immediate family, it's been the highlight of my year.
It's fun, right?
It is really fun. And I don't know what makes us good at it, but my wife said, you just like talking to people. And that's what it is. I mean, I watch you guys, it's just fun watching people who are enjoying talking to each other, sharing information, you learn things, and at my age, learning a new business, like learning a new skill, like moderating a podcast, has been really fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, as a moderator myself, it's definitely, obviously coming from the sports world, hooping background, being able to work with somebody like Gil. I go back and watch old episodes. I'm like, damn, I was terrible. Like, I mean, this is right. Hey, I'm all sincere. It's hard to watch. Like, whoa, but you get so comfortable. And obviously, me and him developed a relationship, almost working together for now 4 years. So
yeah, and as athletes, because when you're never a former athlete, you're always an athlete. We're used to watching ourselves and critiquing ourselves. Can't get my sister to watch herself. Can't get her. Can't get her to watch herself. So it's all on me.
So do you find yourself kind of still embracing that coach role and breaking down film and trying to, put her in the right position to succeed?
Well, first of all, everybody who comes on the show has to get loose with being around her, because they're way too nervous, and that cracks me up because I grew up with her. So, but once people kind of relax, it's really fun, and they get to see the fun side of her. So, but it does make me feel like I can do some coaching. We're giving people advice about things that we've had experience with, and we take a question from our listeners each episode and try and help them answer the question using our life lessons that we learned from our parents, from our coaches, from our players, just from wherever we can get it.
So usually when you guys get together, how many episodes do you attack at one time?
So we typically have been doing 4 to 5, and then we do some ad stuff. We do some other podcasts together. Like, this trip is one of our longest trips. So we came here, we met in LA. We're gonna do 4 episodes, and then we're going to go on other folks' podcasts like this, and then we do some ad stuff, and then that's it, and then we'll get together again next month.
So obviously, at this point in life, you guys had a lot of time to reflect on all the amazing things you've done.
Yeah.
So how cool is it that now, at this point, just to look, did you ever think that you would have a sister that would be living in the White House?
No, not at all, not at all.
The First Lady of the United States.
Let me tell you, first of all, we're from the south side of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Nobody in our family was ever in politics. And so I actually thought that if I couldn't make it in hoops, I'd be a teacher or a cop, a fireman. I'd work in the city, just regular dude. And, I ended up going to Princeton, as you mentioned, and that changed my life, right? And then my sister joined me there. And if we don't make that decision, none of this happens, right? She doesn't meet Barack. She doesn't end up in the White House. Princeton allowed me to, start out in investment banking and then get into coaching, and then now podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never imagined that our lives would be like this. Not at all. I mean, first black president of the United States. Let me tell you a story. When you all heard the story about her meeting Barack and asking me to take him to play basketball, right?
Yeah.
And I was halfway good, and not as good as you guys, but I was pretty decent. But it would have been like me bringing him to play with y'all, and it would have been disastrous, right? So I had to find some dudes he could play with, and he was fine. That story you've heard many a time, but this story I had just remembered and talked about it on one of our episodes when I knew she liked him and he was coming around a lot. I was like playing the big brother, and it was Thanksgiving at my mom's house, and we got a small, our house that we grew up in is about as big as this basement. That's the whole thing. But we had Thanksgiving at our house, so there'd be like 20 people in there. So it's Barack's first Thanksgiving, and I'm like, dude, what are you gonna do? I know you're doing this lawyer thing and community organizing. And he said to me, he was like, you know what? Yeah, I think I want to get into politics. He said, I think I might run for office. And I said, what, like alderman or mayor or something? He's like, no, I was thinking more like senator, maybe congressman, maybe even president of the United States. And I was like, shh, man, don't say that. People think you crazy. My Aunt Gracie would never fall for that. So just keep that down. He ends up being president of the United States. Shows you what I know. I mean, he really, at that early stage, that was a goal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you guys said you used to play basketball together. Did you have to cook him early on, and did that shift once he became president? You have to take it easy on him a little bit?
No. See, I'd never had to cook him because I wasn't an NBA pro, but I played overseas. So it would have been like a bully to cook him. So my sister wanted me to take him on the court because she heard our father say, you can learn a lot about a guy's personality by playing pickup basketball. And we talked about that all the time. And so it was really just a normal experience. I mean, he's a decent pickup basketball, he's a decent pickup basketball player, like how you play in high school, not bad.
I've seen video of it.
Yeah.
Nice little lefty.
And he's a lefty, right? Like he dribbles left and shoots left, and you force him right, and it's over.
Old
So
70s
that's the game plan.
Yeah.
So you talked about you can learn a lot about somebody playing with them in pickup. Gil, what's your personality like in pickup? Is it any different than when you were playing in the league?
No, it's the same, right? It's
not
just
passing?
me versus everyone else out there, right? No teammates. Everyone takes the ball out, give it to me. I'll take it to the promised land.
Yeah.
Go rebound.
Rebound and screen.
Your real personality comes out. But what's cool is pickup basketball makes you got to call your own calls. Mm-hmm. You got to give up calls, and you can tell you play with guys who never want to give up a call, and they're like that when you go to a restaurant. They never want to pick up a check. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So my dad. It's funny. My dad was smart about a lot of stuff. He didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of experience, but he had a lot of wisdom.
For so.
Okay. So First Lady, President, like, where do you learn the mannerisms? Like, was there like a book you're supposed to read, or you ask a bunch of questions, because it's uncharted territory, especially for the black community? So
Yeah. You mean for
your sister?
for my sister? She just, you know what made her popular was she was the same person she was ever since she was 6 years old. You know, she was always smart. She always could command leadership, you know, like she was a leader. And people always listened to her. It's amazing. So she used to bring friends home for lunch. Like, I come home for lunch every now and then. I bring a kid from home. See, you guys are too young to remember when you had to come home for lunch.
Yeah.
But she would bring, it'd be like 6 girls in there, and she's holding court like she's the first lady back when she was in 5th grade, right? And there's certain protocols you learn when you get to the White House that, you know, they have people there who tell you what you need to do, from like when you have state dinners and things like that. But I thought what made both of them really relatable was the fact that they just acted like they did when they were coming along before they were in the White House. Yeah. It is the most interesting thing about doing this podcast and having all these really neat and famous people come on there is to watch them be kind of in awe of her. And it's really a treat. I mean, and once they realize that she's just, you know, Mish from the South Side, then it starts to flow.
So who was your favorite guest that you've had on? Said a lot of famous people.
Yeah, we still trying to get guests on.
Yeah, you got to be tricky with that.
All of them are really good, but I would say the first episode we aired was with Issa Rae, who is a Los Angelian.
Grew up in the same neighborhood as myself. So
Okay.
Big fan of Issa.
She's extremely talented, and it was a good person to have as the first episode. And I find the best episodes are the ones where people kind of relax and kind of be themselves and let themselves go. Because, you know, if you're not used to all of this, you can get a little tight, you know? And we're all used to playing in front of a whole lot of people. So
Utah,
you went to UCLA.
I was there.
I went to UCLA.
I was there.
Yeah,
I was close.
Line. You went through warm-up
You
line.
had to go through warm-up line.
I was like, okay, Gil.
You not miss any layups. Listen, I coached in Pauley, so it was always packed, even when they weren't always good. And you just get used to being in the spotlight, especially playing basketball, because there's no helmets blocking your face. People know who you are. You got to watch what Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. NBA. It's just when folks relax and realize it's just her, it gets to be really fun. Really fun.
So you talked about your time coaching at Oregon State. We're all Pac-10, Pac-12 alumni. Pac-10 on this side. We still recognize the Pac-12, but Colorado, Utah, with no relationship with them.
Josiah, when I was deciding to go to college at Princeton, the other school I was considering was Washington, University of Washington. Pac-8.
Pac-8.
That's how old I am.
My pops was a Pac-8.
Yeah.
So he looks at us like, hey. We don't know nothing about that. It was different in our time, but what do you think about just obviously end of the Pac-12, all these schools now branching out, going other spots? It's hard for me watching UCLA in the Big Ten, Arizona in the Big 12. We still play, but it just, that feeling is gone.
I know. And so my first reaction is, dag, because that conference, it was one of the best conferences. A lot of pros came out of that conference. It was an up and down conference when I coached there. And before, when I was thinking about going to Washington, it was like, you know, it was the place. Very few people from the Midwest ever got to play out there. And how I feel about how things are going now, it's just inevitable. You know, it is the business of the game. You know, and if you want to stay alive, you got to be in one of these big conferences. And the Pac-12 just didn't set themselves up to be one of those conferences. So I'm supremely disappointed, having been sort of an alum, having coached there. But I mean, Oregon State's in the WCC now. It's just like, that sounds weird.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's going to be confusing for recruiting because the West Coast has a West Coast style.
Yeah.
Right? So we're up and down fast pace. Playing in some of those different conferences that's a little bit slower. Like, I don't even know how many West Coast kids actually performed in the East Coast.
Unless their AAU team came out here, I don't know if you guys, when you were playing AAU, you remember NY2LA? You remember that? See, that wasn't around when you guys.
We went to about Vegas. That's about as far as you.
Yeah.
So after you guys, when you guys were already in college, high school teams from all over the country used to end the summer or end one of the sessions in Milwaukee.
Oh, wow.
And it was the only tournament, big enough tournament, where you'd have like Compton Magic and who was Adidas, but then you'd have Nike schools. They all come there to play against each other before the shoe company said, okay, you can just play in our circuit. It was one of the best tournaments. So back then, some West Coast guys came to play AAU in the Midwest, but most of them stayed on the West Coast.
That was like around 2000, probably 8, 9, 7.
Yeah.
Probably Brandon Jennings era.
Yeah, because we were Vegas Easter Classic. That was
everything
else. Cal State Dominguez, Carson, like we were.
It's just like whenever I look at like high school kids that decide to go Midwest or East, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's not your style.
Yeah, it's a much more rugged game, and it still is. But I don't know. I mean, I'm from Chicago. Every time I come out here, I'm like, why don't I live here? Why do I not live here? Every time. So I get it. I get it.
So Chicago produced some of the best basketball players in the country, in the world, if you will. We debate these things, LA, New York, Chicago. Obviously, Texas now got a stronghold over. But what is it about Chicago Hoopers that makes them so special?
So I always thought that Chicago did a great job when I was coming up, and ever since, the guys who were pros, who were from Chicago, always came back and played in the summer league. And the summer league was one of those summer leagues where you could be a pro, a college player, or a high school player and play in the same tournament. So to give you an example, when I was coming along, I was in high school, and I can't remember how it happened, but somehow I ended up on a summer league team with, now get this, some of these you might not know because they're older guys, Sonny Parker,
Jabari's
dad, Tony Parker, Tony Parker's dad,
in Kansas,
Mo Cheeks, who else? Mickey Johnson played for the Bulls, and then some college guys, and me from high school. And when I got in the game, you can imagine, I was 15, 16 years old. I would run down the court, run to the corner, and hope they didn't pass me the ball. And I remember Tony Parker's dad, Tony, would be like, come on, Craig, no, you got to get out the corner. You got to say, and they would run plays for me to have to do something. So they were really inclusive, and you had to play, and that's how I learned to play with guys who were way better than me, which helped my game. That was what I always thought was good about Chicago basketball. The willingness of guys to share their talents with dudes who they just went to ball. And now it just feels like guys don't even want to compete like that. They just sort of they play in games and handshakes and
even in Chicago still, or Chicago still doing.
I couldn't tell you what Chicago's doing now. It seems like when I was coaching, and now I have two younger kids who are 15 and 13. now I'm watching the AAU circuit again, and it's just like non-aggression packed, right? Like it's just I'll let you shoot if you let me shoot, and I'll play a little phantom defense if you play a little phantom defense. It's just not. And I shouldn't be so hard on them. It's really nice. The thing I do like about these younger guys is that even if they don't know each other, they're helping each other up. They're good. They're good.
They're good kids. Yeah,
they're good kids.
They're
They're not
kids.
savages like we used to be, man. Shoot, I was trying to kill guys.
So you talk about playing in high school, Chicago. You parlayed that to Princeton. Like I said, 2-time Ivy League Player of the Year. You won 3 conference championships. Played under legendary head coach Pete Carrill.
I did.
Princeton offense. Gil, you ran the Princeton offense.
I was the Princeton.
You were the Princeton offense in the league with the Wizards, but you got to spend a lot of time learning how to offense, and we're very effective in our offense. What makes the Princeton offense so effective in your opinion?
Because if you are willing to give yourself up for the next guy, it'll come back for you. Mm-hmm. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is if you have pros running it, they're going to be open all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. Because it is sort of contrary to what you're seeing today where guys are pounding the heck out of the ball. It was pass, cut, and sharing. There was way more sharing, but I told people all the time, people always thought the Princeton offense was you score 40 points in the game. That's how some people did it. Mm-hmm. But what I found when I was playing at Princeton, the reason why the scores were low, that the other team was holding the ball, not us. Because when I was coaching at Oregon State, I like to bring this up all the time with guys who poo-poo the Princeton offense. We led the Pac-12 in scoring. If you got guys who are good, it's easy pickings. Did you find that, Gil, when you were playing it?
Oh, I loved it. Sacramento had it. Yep. Obviously, it was fast.
And Coach Carrill was out there for a minute at Sacramento.
And then Jason Kidd and them had it.
Yep.
2 times they went to the championship.
Yep.
And I averaged 30 in it.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
See, there you go. Proving my point.
So the best thing about the Princeton is no matter how you guard it, there's an option for it.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're over aggressive, right, if you're one of those guys that love to play defense, we have backdoor plays for it. We have dribble handoff if you're sagging a little bit, right?
Yep.
I remember when I got the playbook, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, all these options. This is like a Cheesecake Factory. And I sat with it the whole summer, and Coach said, now try to figure out how you can score in this offense.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had cones, moving them, trying to figure out how to do it. And then I started just thinking of new plays that probably wasn't seen. So I had a lot of drop series where it's like chin drop reverse, right? Chin special, chin, so I was creating more options inside that.
And Gil, chin is a high school offense.
Yeah.
It's a high school offense. I asked Coach Carrill, I was like, where'd you get that? High school in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the guy was running it. And it's so many different options off of it. And we're getting a little technical for your audience.
Yeah, I know.
It's this stuff. They love when we go deep into the game.
But I can run chin with my 7th grade team, and you can run chin in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how it's timeless.
Yeah, it's split game, right? It's what Sun should have, right? They should have some form of the Princeton.
You said the Suns? Mm-hmm. Yeah, with all those shooters.
Yeah.
And they just fired a coach.
Yep. I call it, it's an equalizer to your stars, where everyone gets to feel like they touched the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
And the ball always finds the star player, but everyone gets a feel for it, so no one looks like when they do touch it, they have to shoot it.
Yeah.
So, get everybody moving. It's hard to key on certain players if everybody's backdooring and cutting and slashing. It's like, if you don't play it right, it's like the old school UCLA cut, right? If you don't actually defend it right, you're going to give up that layup. Or that little up screen, or the down screen. You play it wrong. He turns and do one of these.
Yeah.
We stopped running it when Ben Howland came, but it was like everybody knew the offense, but you could cook it. Like it didn't matter. They knew how. But it's like, hey, I get to my spot in the post, I'm effective. But You talked about Mike Budenholzer. Obviously, you work with the Bucks. I don't think you crossed paths with.
No,
Coach
he was
Budenholzer.
there after I was gone. Yeah.
But just as being a former coach, when you're seeing guys like Budenholzer, Mike Malone, guys who've won championships.
I know. Well, I understand the game is different now, and when I was growing up, players didn't have as much power as they do now. But the power is really in the money. It's just you're paying guys $100 million versus paying a guy $20 million. You're going to get rid of the guy who's making $20 million if he's a player or a coach or whatever. Having said that, I think that not allowing anybody, whether it's a player or a coach, to have a little runway to get the team in the right position is short-sighted. I think somebody in the organization needs to be there longer than 3 years.
It's like, how do you build?
How do you build? How do you build a culture? How do you build a team? How do you build skills? How do you develop guys if you're running guys in and out?
That's my thing. It's like when you bring in a coach, it's like, what are you expecting from me, right? Are you expecting me to build the young guys? Judge me off of that. Like when you first got them to now, our practice habits, our game habits, right? Because winning, all it takes is something to click into the summer, and then boom. So like something like Detroit, but with Bud, he didn't have. He wasn't there long enough to even know these guys' personalities.
Yeah, I agree. And it's in this day and age, you as a pro and these guys as a pro, you know how to play. It gets down to who has the ability to communicate with you enough to get you to still be able to do stuff that you can't do on your own. It's harder when you get pros because you all can do a whole lot more than I could ever do or I could ever show you. But somehow I gotta bridge that communication gap. So when things go poorly, you just don't say, I'm off this coach.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot in this league now, where guys get off coaches for the darndest reasons. Sometimes I'd be just like, play better.
You didn't let me score my 60, only had 5.
Yeah, right.
No, seriously, that's usually
it's
nothing that has to do with anything.
So it bums me out, Josiah, to be honest with you, because these are guys. I mean, he won a championship in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Malone won a championship.
2023.
I mean, just
Less
a
than
couple
2
years
years
ago.
yeah.
It's like, but there's all. It's hard to comment now because now, having worked in the NBA, there's all kinds of stuff that could be going on behind the scenes that we as fans don't know about. So, but I do think that good organizations, they handle the ups and downs without replacing the personnel so quickly.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. Obviously, a college coach at Brown and Oregon State. We all kind of came up in what I like to call the blue chips era, where if you wanted to give players money, it was gym bag or facilitating, or you wanted to give somebody a tractor, whatever it may be. You had to, we weren't open about it like we are now. What you talk about, just the current state of college hoops.
Yeah.
NIL, kind of with these players, what they're doing now, multi-million-dollar deals, being able to just transfer. You talk about the transfer portal, leave whenever they feel like to go wherever they want. Make sure they get their bag. Obviously, coaches have been outspoken about it, but this is something we've always talked about as players. You got a coach who make a good tournament run. See y'all later.
Yeah.
We saw it this year with Coach Wade at McNeese State, obviously moving on after he made a good run with that squad, and basically coaches being able to leverage these players and give themselves better opportunities. So now we're seeing it from the player side. But as a former coach, what are your thoughts on the state of college hoops with NIL and transfer portal and all those things going on?
So my first reaction is it's about time, especially for the players, because as I mentioned, prior to getting into coaching, I was a bond trader, worked on Wall Street. So I'm a free market guy, right? So I always found it weird that like a ballerina at Princeton could go and earn money dancing in Russia and then come back and do dancing amateurishly. Or a better example is like a golfer could go and play golf, play in a tournament, and then come back and play.
Yeah.
But a basketball player or a football player was like, whoa, no, you can't do that. But now that I'm understanding the economics and behind everything, I'm really glad the players are getting their fair share. The problem with it is that they had all of these things happen at once. So you have the ability to transfer along with the ability to make money. You just put these two things in where you just made a free agent market. Mm-hmm. And that's tough, but for the reason we just talked about in coaching, you can't really put together a team or a culture in a year. Mm-hmm. But I've said this on many other occasions when I've gotten interviewed. Our coaches, who we represent as sort of a group, have to get used to this. They have to evolve and be able to, sort of coach like a G. It's like being a G League coach now, where the G League, your roster turns over a couple times a season.
Yep.
And that's what this is. So I think there are ways that if we get the right people in the room, we can figure out what's the right way to do this, whether that's collective bargaining and contracts. So you can sign guys for a couple of years and then you know what your roster is going to be for a couple of years, maybe 3, depending on the money. But you got to get the right people in the room and come up with it.
Yeah, so there's these two entities that's moving at the same time. You got the collective,
Yep.
which that's the problem. The collective is the problem. The NIL is not the problem. The NIL there's only a few kids that are using name, image, and likeness, right? That's only a few. This collective is the problem when the schools decided that they want to be a part of the NIL process, so they're buying players. If you just take away the ability to buy, that means these kids can't leave, right? Because there's no money to spend. But if I see a player that I like at your school, and I'm like, hey, I got $600,000 over here for you, you're going to hit the portal, right? So that's all everyone's doing is everyone's hitting the portal, checking out their value, because the school is paying them. Versus NIL is your name, image, and likeness.
Right, yeah.
You go figure out how to go to these moms and pop stores and get 500, whatever your name is going to get you. But as a school, I don't want to pay you. Yeah. I thought this was the problem, that the school has to stay out of it.
Yeah, I think this house settlement that's coming down is they think that this is going to even the playing field for people. But to your point, the collectives could still
go around
which aren't part of the school. But here's what I don't understand, because I don't know if it's sustainable. Because even if I'm a billionaire and I'm giving away tens of millions of dollars, I still want to see a return on my investment or some winnings of games. And what happens when you don't win a championship? Does that guy keep donating money to the collective? I don't know.
So I remember a coach said they're going after older players.
Yes,
right.
That's an unintended consequence.
And I said, how do I sell that to my boosters, my collective, right? I can sell you a superstar that's going to be here 1 year done, because what I can do now is say, hey, Cooper Flagg, this is the guy who paid you. This is his company. When you decide to go to the NBA, hey, you might want to sign a little deal with him going into the NBA. That makes sense. But you're getting a 25-year-old, giving him $2 million, and he's never gonna touch that next level. Where is the investment at?
Yeah.
I can sell a young superstar to my collective. That's easy. Yeah. I can't sell some older kid, so I don't see how that's gonna work.
But how many of those young superstars, you talk about a Cooper Flagg, but even from a McDonald's, like we see a lot of guys at McDonald's now going to college, not playing that much. So top 5, top 10 guys like Flagg, they're always gonna be fine, but beyond that, It's even McDonald's All-Americans now that struggle to get in the game their freshman year with these rosters.
Because the older coaches are thinking about their job of winning games.
And there's no more developing now. So if you unless you're a highly ranked high school player, if I'm coaching in these days, I would get an already made college player, because that's how I would save my job is by winning and having enough dudes who could beat the young superstars. But you know what I don't hear them talking about? And I wanted to get your take on this, and I thought about this when I was coming on here, and I'm glad you guys got to this topic. Do you remember how you felt when you first became a pro and you were going to get paid to play basketball, and you went from, oh my goodness, this is a fun game and I'm out here getting my 30, to like, oh my gosh, I gotta prove my value for my worth? Did you have a little bit of insecurity at first until you realized, okay, I can bust these dudes up? Or I'm sure you thought you could bust these dudes up even before.
There is pressure. There is, I remember Jason Richardson, so it's easy because, number 5 pick, making that kind of money, people looking at him. It's you have to perform now because you're getting paid to.
Yeah.
I don't know if these kids even know what the money is.
So did you see when the kid from Kansas State, Coleman Hawkins, when they lost and he was doing his press conference and he broke down? I don't know if you saw this, but this kid broke down. He got paid a lot of money, and he confessed that the pressure of having to live up to expectations proved to be too much for him. And this is where nobody's talking about this. The pressure of getting paid to play now, as opposed to being just a college player, is going to wear on a lot of these guys' mental health, because they're not built for the pressure that comes along with it. And then you throw on top of it social media, where fans, gamblers, people who are losing money can access these guys. It is just too much. I mean, I was a good player, but when I went overseas, my first few games, I was like, whoa, I've got to average 20-something, right? And it took me a minute to figure it out, but I was also older, I think that it's interesting that nobody's talking about this.
I think it weeds out. It seems like it always does what it's supposed to do. Like, it weeds out, right? The players who are not mentally strong enough to make it to the next level, right? If you're getting paid this money and you can't perform here, I'm glad we found that out today, versus me drafting you number 1, giving you this big bag, and then you pull that in the pros.
But you said it. The guys who are going to go to the pros aren't the guys who are getting this money in college. That's why they're in college, because they're not pros. I mean, that's what when I was at Oregon State, I was like, where are all these dudes who's supposed to be pros, right? And then I got to the NBA, I was like, oh, they're in the NBA already. You know what I mean? And in my opinion, the NBA is sort of 75% of them dudes are in there, but the bottom 25 could be anybody. Could be anybody. Could be anybody. But the guys who are dudes are already there. So in college, if you're still in college, you're trying to get that extra year so that you can get paid here before you go overseas or go to the G League or something. You're not going to the NBA.
Yeah, like I said, was it Auburn?
Yeah.
Auburn. They had the $8 million.
With the old starting lineup, or
their lineup was $8 million, and I'm like, for what? You got 22, 23, 24. Why would you even have to pay them this. They don't demand this kind of money for you to even do that. So I think there's going to be a cap, right? The cap is going to be June, July.
And there's no transparency either. So there's no standardized contract. So if an agent says to a coach, it's going to cost you $200,000 for this guy, and they say, okay, I'll take him, then he can go over here and say to somebody else, it's going to cost you $400 to get this guy. Then he goes back and tells this guy, you can't have him. He's going over here, and they just keep doing that.
Selling.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
So you talked about seeing pros once you got to the league, work with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yes.
Were there when a young Giannis was finally kind of breaking into his own.
Yeah.
I think he made his first All-NBA team, first All-Defensive team during your time with the Bucks.
Okay.
Yeah, 2017-ish.
Yeah.
What stood out to you the most about Giannis when you were working with the Bucks?
That's an easy one. That easily was one of the hardest working dudes I've ever seen on his own. Just on his own, you watch him work out, and he worked hard, and he was in the gym all the time, and he was a really neat person along with that. Like, he wasn't a jerk. He wasn't. He just come in, do his work. If another guy was in there, he'd work out with him. It didn't matter who it was. He was just a great hard worker and a fantastic teammate. That stood out. I don't think there was a selfish bone in that guy's body.
What's so funny is you can see it you can see it when he plays.
Yeah.
Right? It just, like, I didn't like him at first.
You didn't?
Yeah, I don't like anybody but the Lakers.
He could be a Laker at some point.
Right? No, but, just watching him, and it's like.
What didn't you like about, like, when he was young, or just in general?
Just in general.
What didn't you like? The fact that his shot wasn't like yours?
No, I just, if you're not a Laker, I don't really.
Really?
You always, I just look at you like, I don't see anything special about it, right? And then just watching him, right? It's like what he does best, you can't teach.
Yeah, right.
And that is playing hard.
Yes.
Being happy playing hard. Yeah. And trying to be the best version of yourself.
Right.
And, so just sitting back, taking my bias out of it and looking at him, it's like the one thing I never have to worry about with him is being in shape, being mentally prepared, being physically prepared, and going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at a few guys, that's the one guy. My best player does my job for me.
Yes.
Because he's gonna self-check the rest of the team.
Right. Right.
Makes it easier on the coach.
And it's hard for other guys not to put their best foot forward when the best guy's doing it. And he was doing it before he got paid too. And then once he got paid, it seemed like he started working harder. Now, I wasn't there, but I'm watching him on TV like you guys. I'm like, this dude's like getting better now. Yeah. It was really a treat to be around him.
Yeah. So my dad obviously works for the Bucks. You guys were there together, but he always tells the story. He was staying at the hotel across from the facility. It was a snowstorm. Late one night, he sees this big black shadowy figure, shorts and sandals, walking into the training facility by 11, 12 o'clock at night. Like, is Giannis going just to get some work in?
That's him.
And, something that always just resonated with him, obviously playing with the Bucks as well. And kind of, passing that torch on to him.
Yeah, that story doesn't surprise me at all. And on the road, if he was bored, he'd go to the gym. From time to time, I try and take players out to dinner. He'd come out, talk to everybody. Some guys would go out, some guys would go to their hotel. He'd go to the gym, back to the gym. Just fascinating. And you've heard and read about his upbringing. Yeah. I think his modest upbringing is part of it. It's culturally, he came from nowhere and knows he has some blessings and is trying to live up to it.
So you talk about Giannis, one of the longest tenured active players with the same team, been extremely loyal to Milwaukee. They've been loyal to him as well. Hasn't gone as well as it should for the Bucks in his opinion. He's kind of alluded that, if the team isn't committed to winning like he's committed, that he could see himself moving on. You look at other players, guys like Luka, coming to the Lakers, big market. Now Luka's got the number one selling jersey in the league. But somebody like Giannis, do you anticipate Giannis will stay in Milwaukee, or is everyone come to a point where he's going to have to make his next move, his best move, and look elsewhere?
Yeah, I don't know, but I will tell you what my dad used to always say. Never try and figure out what's going on in another guy's pockets. Mm-hmm. And the way the league has set up, the way the contracts are, you guys probably know this better than I do. For him to leave, you leaving a lot on the table. And
well, unless you get it first, then dip. No, I'm just kidding.
But I think it would be, tactically it would be hard, but I certainly understand he likes winning like everybody else. And the Gil's Lakers, that's an attractive place to be. Yeah. I would say Chicago Bulls because I'm a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
Some people have said the Knicks. I mean, who knows? But I just don't know how leaving money on the table that size of money is just unheard of in the finance world. There are some people who will be willing to do it, but if he asked me, I would say don't do that.
And I don't think fans really understand to leave your team and go somewhere else, that person really cares about winning.
Yeah.
People don't like KD, how much money he left on the table and lost going to Golden State to win those 2 championships. Yeah. If they put the number out, people are like, Jesus Christ, I don't think it was worth being hated for that.
Who would do it? Yeah.
So if I'm an owner, I'm like, well, if you want to leave, I'm not going to sign and trade you.
Yeah.
I want you to take this $150 million loss. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sign and trade you, give you your money, then trade you.
Yeah. Is that what it is now?
Yeah, it's about that. Yeah.
Gosh.
Like what did Luka lose?
Oh, because he won't get that 50, or I think somewhere in the range.
About 150. Yeah. Like so, what Kawhi did when he didn't sign back in Toronto, he lost a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And compounding and it's just, you can't afford to give it.
And we're not, and the one thing that we're not taught to think like being a millionaire or billionaire.
I know.
Right? It's about the game. We've taught it's about winning, it's about legacy, it's about trying to win championships, so I'm gonna sacrifice whatever. So once I get my first lump of money, the rest of it's kinda irrelevant. And that's the thought process, right? The thought process is not, wait a minute, let me sign every dollar.
Yeah.
No one has told us, like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Try to be a billionaire. Think like that.
Right.
And I think if it was switched, because if I got 200 here and 350 million here, and he's giving me my parking spot.
Yeah.
I will turn down $150 million for a parking spot.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. How we think.
Yeah. How did you get to the point of understanding that value as opposed to other folks?
After I retired, because I took a pay cut for a teammate or to keep our team intact. Well, I was given the max is yours. Mm-hmm. So all the money is yours. Do what you want with it. Mm-hmm. Like, all right. Then I started, asking team like, hey, you're a free agent. So I sacrificed, but telling players now, it's not your job to sacrifice, because all you're doing is saving them money that they don't want to spend. So they don't want to spend the extra to get a winning team. They're preying on your love for the game.
Yeah.
So instead of me sacrificing as the owner $20 million, I want you to sacrifice the $20 million.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. So the fans, you got to sacrifice, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, he's the billionaire. Like, you guys are, wait, hold on, you guys are getting mad at the millionaire for the billionaire? That's weird, but that's how it's been pushed among us.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're going to still go and, all right, let me opt out of my deal, take a pay cut from a friend.
The game is a game, so we're
not going to learn.
2 more questions for you. Really appreciate you pulling up. So you work for the Knicks.
Yep.
General manager of the Westchester Knicks, their G League affiliate squad. We've seen the Knicks be very successful as of late, build a very competitive roster. Jalen Brunson kind of emerging as the king of New York. Are you surprised by the Knicks' turnaround into a top 3 team in the East?
I am not surprised once they got Jalen Brunson because I've always been a Jalen Brunson fan. But I was surprised how far they could go with just that squad, with Jalen being the number 1 guy. But and there aren't, the only person who is actually left over from when we were there is Mitchell Robinson, who I'm a big fan of. But I thought the kid that they got, the Hartenstein kid, I think that helped them. Yes, I was surprised how well they did, but I've always been a Jalen Brunson fan. He grew up outside of Chicago when his dad played there. But I've been a Jalen Brunson fan because he's a small player, but he plays like he's playing in the park. You know, and I really love that. Like off 2 feet fakes, draws fouls, makes shots. So I'm really excited about what they have been doing. I just think this year sort of everybody's caught up to them. I mean, you know, that you got to build a championship team, and I don't know if they can. I mean, there are a lot of good teams in the East that they're going to be overpowered by.
I mean, you talk about guys taking pay cuts. Seemed like Jalen Brunson did that, being able to get his Nova Knicks crew minus Dante DiVincenzo, who's traded for Cat. Mitchell Robinson been hurt for a lot of this season. Now, kind of obviously working his way back in. So and then Jalen suffering that ankle injury against the Lakers, and coming back obviously in the last few weeks. So we haven't really seen this Knicks squad, I think, play at a full competitive level yet.
We haven't.
See how they perform in the playoffs.
But I didn't know I was going to be like this when I first started working in the NBA, but I root for the teams that I have worked for because you develop these relationships behind the scenes, not just with the players, but I developed relationships with a lot of the players because I recruited them or I coached them, but people behind the scenes. So there are a lot of people both in Milwaukee and New York that I'm like, God, I'm rooting for them to get over the hump, and it's you know, except for when they play the Bulls.
So brings me to my last question. NBA playoffs underway. Who do you think will make the NBA Finals this year?
So let's start with the East because that's a little easier. I've been thinking about this. While I think the Cavs have a really good chance of doing something, Celtics are still better. If they're healthy, if Jalen is healthy, they'll be good. They'll come out of the East. Now the West, I might throw you a little curveball here because I have been watching the Clippers and thinking, man, if Kawhi is the real Kawhi, they got a shot. If not,
you can say it.
Don't worry.
You can say
We're
it.
in LA, it's fine. You already know.
You can say it.
No, I would root for the Lakers, but I just can't. No, I have to do this by process of elimination because I don't think Denver is there. I like watching Minnesota, but I don't think they have enough.
I don't think so either. They probably won't get out the first round if I had to guess.
Golden State, too much, not enough.
Stability.
Yeah, just they're too volatile, right? So you don't know what you're getting. And then who am I leaving out?
OKC.
OKC. And OKC's so young, but they've been playing some ball. But I want to see them in a playoff first before I jump on the bandwagon. So that leaves me with the Lakers. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here and it's your favorite team, because I didn't realize that.
No, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Since '96, Kobe Bryant.
So, but I think the Lakers, everything has to, everything has to fall into place perfectly for them to win it.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, man, if Kawhi can get it together, the Clippers have a shot. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch it. So if I have to pick a team right now, I would pick the Clippers.
So you say Clippers, Celtics.
Clippers, Celtics.
Is your
and then
final
and then the
prediction?
Celtics will win again.
So if that ends up happening, it will not. But if it does, we will clip this off. We will make you look like a genius. If it doesn't happen, we'll just keep going on with our lives.
Like you said, usually you say, if this happened, which it won't.
Just, I'm a LeBron fan.
We've been here for a long time to realize the Clippers is the Clippers. They're going to always be the Clippers.
They're going to always be the Clippers.
Unfortunately, they will always be the Clippers. No
Yeah.
disrespect, Steve Ballmer. Love what you've done with the team. Into it, done. All that's great, but nonetheless, they're the Clippers.
See, you guys have that hometown bias. I feel it. I feel it. It's like the Cubs and the White Sox.
For sure.
It's like the Cubs and the White Sox.
That's how it goes on this side of town. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
pulling up. Everybody, make sure you check out IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson. Craig Robinson, appreciate you coming through.
Thank
the
you
Gil's
so
Arena
much for
presented
having
by
me.
Underdog. Whoa, whoa, woo, woo.
Got to give him his smoke.
Absolutely honored.
I've never done this, Gil. Hold on.
Absolutely
Okay, it's my
honored.
first time doing this smoke.
You got to turn it off.
I'm absolutely honored
there
to
you
be
go.
here. This is you guys.
Lock,
do a
unlock. I never
fantastic
knew.
Job.
We appreciate you so
Fantastic
much.
job,
So this has
man.
been another episode of Gil's Arena presented by Underdog. Whoa, whoa. We'll be back with more very soon.